Today, we'll be talking about building trust within your team in order for them to do the right thing on the job.
I've always been very competitive, and I've always loved sport, and I've learned a lot about myself, but I've also learned a lot about other people in team dynamics and how.
My guest is a former Irish hockey international, player and coach, now a performance coach and facilitator, working with teams in medium and large corporations.
Being active and moving, and exercising. It's a really important element of managing our mental health for sure.
You'll be learning about how difficult challenges can help you find yourself and discover strengths you never knew you had.
You're not going to develop yourself. You're not going to grow your mind. You're not going to become a stronger human unless you do things that are hard.
Yeah.
And doing hard things is so worth it. It's not about succeeding or failing in terms of doing hard things. It's about what you learn about yourself.
The theme for this season is Embracing Life's Tapestry, and my guest is Brian Downs. Brian, you've held senior positions at global account manager level within the supply chain sector.
Mm-hmm.
You're now working as a performance coach and facilitator. What
Yeah.
circumstances in your life led you to change career direction to become the person
Uh,
you are today?
well, when I went to college, I went to study accountancy. I didn't like it, and when I came out of that, I really wasn't sure what to do, John. In all honesty, and I went to Australia for a year and a half. And when I came home, I got a job in logistics, and I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Um, so I stayed in that for about 5 years, but I'd always wanted to work for myself. And as much as I was enjoying the corporate world and particularly that world, I think logistics is and supply chain is a really interesting place to be. I wanted to work for myself. So I initially went in a completely different direction. I was in business with some other people, and we grew a fairly large business. And after about 7 years, that had become untenable. It wasn't working anymore. Uh, so I left the business. But before I left, I'd started studying again and started studying coaching and training, behavioral science, psychology, because I through the course of that I realized my real interest was people, and then kind of tying that with my background in sport, I kind of moved into that whole performance coaching world, and team development and leadership development, which I absolutely love. I've been doing that for 12 years. What year have we? Yeah, 12, 13 years now, which is great fun. Really is great fun. Um, Not without its challenges, of course, but I think I had to try things and do things to figure out what I actually wanted to be doing, if that makes sense.
Indeed. And I had worked in the supply chain sector myself. So for the audience, I think the supply chain sector, I believe, I should say, the supply chain sector is one of the most innovative and dynamic
Mm.
sectors you can work in. So I would recommend it for any young professional person who's looking for a career choice. Think seriously about supply chain. It's a very dynamic sector. You'll find out a lot about yourself as a person within that sector. It's very dynamic, always change. And there's always pressure from customers to do even better, I find. But those challenges make you a better professional person and a better person overall. So
Yeah, they do for sure.
you talked about going and doing courses there, Brian. Did you do courses through the uh, Irish Management Institute, or did you go through the EMCC or the International Coaching Federation, for example, to get your coaching qualifications and badges?
No, I started the coaching route through neurolinguistics actually, and later got myself certified. But again, a very interesting world, a very interesting road to go down. I've done lots and lots of different courses over the years. I like learning. I've got an interest in learning new things. I read lots of books, and I put things into practice from the books that I read, from the things that I learn, and I try and figure out what works best with my style. Um, and it's always rewarding. Again, I found things that don't work, but I found lots of things that do work well for me, and all of those things contribute to a kind of a constantly evolving approach. I'm not the same. I'm not the same professional I was 12, 13 years ago, for certain. And I won't be the same professional I am now in 10 years' time, in a year's time even, because look, we learn more, we gain more experiences, and every interaction with a client, every interaction with a group of people, um, you learn something new. You learn a new perspective. You learn to look at things in a different way, and I find that fascinating.
So within your business, Brian, what would be a typical type of customer for you in terms of performance coaching and facilitating?
Uh, I actually have a very broad range of clients, from big corporates to I suppose larger national companies. So typically, uh, the larger national companies would be 100 plus people, probably turning over in excess of 35, 40 million, um, right up to brand names you'd be very familiar with. And I really think it's more circumstance than size predominantly. I tend not to work with startups. I tend not to work with very small businesses just because it's not tenable for me. But it really tends to be about circumstance and requirements with my clients.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there. What you have is fewer clients, but you're delivering more
Mm.
value to those clients at the moment. Whereas if you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
one-to-one clients, you have to have a lot of those to make a business, viable to cover all your overheads going forward. Yeah.
yes,
You mentioned there
absolutely.
about being a sports person in the past. How has that benefited you in terms of designing and building your coaching programs?
I think there's a few elements to this, John. I've always been very competitive, and I've always loved sport, and I've learned a lot about myself, but I've also learned a lot about other people in team dynamics and how people operate in that sporting environment where it's high pressure, high competition. So I've been able to take an awful lot from that and bring parallels across into the business world, which is also highly competitive and highly pressurized. Um, it's taught me a lot about how to deal with challenging situations. Um, so the changing room, the locker room, whatever you want to call it, the dressing room, have always were always a very important place where there was very real conversations. And people were very straight with each other. And I take that into how I do my work as well. I'm very straight with people, um, and try to get to the core of the issue as soon as possible. Because again, you take that change room half time, you've got 10, 15 minutes to get to the core of an issue, get it sorted, and get back out in the field and do your thing. Um, I like to get to the core of a problem as quickly as possible. So there's two very important things I think in terms of how I approach my work in a business setting.
Yeah, so for the benefit of the audience here today, Brian is a former hockey international with Ireland. So we can understand the pressure that, when you're down at half time, you're in the dressing room, you have to bang heads together as a coach or as a player. And for the benefit of the team, you have to leave your ego out of that room and do its best with the team to turn a result around in the second half. So I can
Sure, and
understand what you're
not
coming
always
from
easy,
there.
Judd. Not always easy, and I've been doing as a coach, a hockey coach as well, and it's not always an easy thing to do because, as you can imagine, people are kind of they're teed up, they're wound up a bit, and it's okay. Let's kind of center ourselves a bit here first. Let's get calm and let's focus on what we need to do. Let's focus on the job at hand.
Yeah.
And that's an easily transferable skill.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, Brian, because if you have somebody who's not playing to the best of their ability, because they might be carrying an injury, for example, or they're down in their
Hmm.
form, you might say at halftime, I need to withdraw that person for their own benefit and put another player on in their place. But it's how you handle those situations that makes you a better coach. If you don't do it right, you lose the dressing room. On the other hand, if you do it and do it diplomatically, you'll carry the team with you. And it's the same in the business situation where you have egos in a boardroom, for example, and you want to get those people to work together harmoniously to improve performance. That's a skill that really you have to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to find those
Sure.
skills and hone those skills in other sectors to be able to carry that into the boardroom. And you've done that over the years. So fair
Well,
play to you.
one of the most important things in that dynamic, John, and you talk about boardrooms, but it's really any team in business is trust, and developing some trust so that we can trust each other. We can trust each other to do what's right. We can trust each other to do the job right. Uh, we can trust each other enough that we can have a very honest to and fro conversation. And that's something that takes time to build. So it's something that we go out with team development from the very beginning, because it's that important. It's kind of it's a foundation stone for a high performing team. Um, but where you have that, then it opens it up for those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, of course. What you're saying here, Brian, effectively is if you're the managing director or CEO of an organization, what you want to do is surround yourself with people who will offer different opinions to
Yes,
yours. And then somebody at the end of the day has to make the final decision. And if the team is happy and there's harmony in the team, then everybody will get behind that decision. They mightn't entirely agree with everything that's been decided upon, but to go for the benefit of the team, they decide, I will go with this decision and move forward. You don't want to surround
yeah.
yourself with yes people in a boardroom or in
No,
a
absolutely not.
yeah,
I mean, innovation comes from conversations and challenge. And what you're talking about there is this idea of disagree and commit. That okay, we're in a room, we need to make a decision. We won't all necessarily agree with it, but when that decision is made, even if we disagree, we commit to going with the decision that's been made. We'll go and do the best that we can
yeah.
to make that work. And that's a very important part of teamwork.
What inspires you the most to become successful in life?
What inspires me the most? And you know me reasonably well at this stage, John. I'm inspired by adventures. I love adventures, and I look at adventure in a number of different ways. I've been lucky enough to go on adventures and travel an awful lot and climb big mountains and do stuff like that. But I look at adventure in the context of learning as an adventure, that kind of intellectual adventure where you can learn through conversation. Um, you know, I look at adventure as something that's an emotional journey that we learn to navigate how we cope and how we exist in this world. Um, so I'm inspired by that, and I like to I like to see people who are willing to do that, or willing to let me bring them along, or guide them, or facilitate them in doing that and having those conversations, because those adventurous conversations make a huge difference in how we show up at work. Um, uh, and it's a lot of fun, you know. I in my work, I need to enjoy it, or I just I don't see the point in doing something if you don't enjoy it at this stage. So yeah, adventure is really important for me.
It's a great point to make there, Brian. I think for many young people, there's too much emphasis on academic qualifications and achievement in Ireland. I think, it starts with the leaving cert. It's all about how many points do you get in your leaving cert.
Mm,
Then people go on to university and striving to get that first class honours degree or a good second class honours degree. And then people go out into the workplace and they find there's a vacuum in their life because they're doing work they're not entirely happy with. But what you're saying there, Brian, is sometimes you have to go on an adventure to get the best out of yourself, to find your voice. And by doing those adventures, you develop a coping mechanism because you're going to meet challenges along the way, whether it's climbing a mountain, for example, or going on a large, long trek, for example.
mm,
You have
yeah,
to deal with the curveballs that come your way, and that makes you a much more resilient person, and you're able to cope then with life's challenges. So I think what you're
yeah,
saying there is a very good point. Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, challenge is the root of growth, John. I mean, you're not going to develop yourself. You're not going to You're not going to grow your mind. You're not going to become a stronger human unless you do things that are hard.
Yeah,
And doing hard things is so worth it. You know, it's not about succeeding or failing in terms of doing hard things. It's about what you learn about yourself. It's about the skills that you pick up along the way. And you know, you were talking there about leaving cert and going to university and that. And look, it's a very worthy thing, and for lots of people, that's the way they want to go. Uh, you can look at that as an adventure too, you know, and pick up as best you can. But I encourage people to experiment with new things. You know, so when you come out of college, when you finish your degree or your master's, whatever level you're going to go to, that when you come out of that, you take some time to experiment with things that you to figure out what you're going to do with that education, right? To figure out what floats your boat, to get figure out what gets you excited. Because life's too short to be in a job that you don't like, to do it with people that you don't like or you're not enjoying. So experiment.
true. Brian, I want to put you here in the spot a bit. Would you be a person who has kind of suffered over the years with mental health challenges?
Yes, absolutely. So I have ADHD, which I only found out about a few years ago, but for many years, I have an anxiety disorder. So I've experienced panic attacks and all of that, and experienced periods of depression. Thankfully, not very long. Um, but yeah, mental health has been a bit of a challenge for me over the years for sure.
And do you find going on these adventure travels that you have been on in the past has helped you a lot to overcome these mental health challenges, that you're able to deal with adversity, you're able to deal with challenges much more effectively as a result of, getting out of your comfort zone and pushing your boundaries to do these challenges?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really important element to me. I've been going to the mountains since I was a kid. Since I was 11, my dad brought me up Karen Tool, and I've been kind of in love with the outdoors since then. So it's always been part of me. Um, Now I'm always also a big advocate for psychotherapy, which I think is hugely beneficial. And I've been a willing participant and a regular participant in therapy for a long time now, which I love. I think it's a really good way to and learn and grow. But yeah, continuing to do hard things really matters, and pushing myself a bit. I get comfort in the pain of pushing my body and pushing my mind a bit. Um, so again, it's about finding what works for you. That won't necessarily work for everybody. You know, choose your adventure. See what's going to work for you. See what's going to benefit your mind. But I think being active and moving and exercising, it's a really important element of managing our mental health for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a point here for the audience. Brian is making a very good point here about, coping with mental health challenges and also going on adventures. And my recommendation is for people, don't try and do it all on your own. Make sure you have a supporting mechanism around you, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a psychotherapist, for example, because if you do meet challenges and you're on your own, it's very hard to recover. You need that support mechanism around you at all times to make sure if you do fall over, somebody's there to help you pick yourself up and move forward again. One final question for
It,
you. Yeah, go ahead, Brian. Yeah,
just in that, I think it's important to remember that anyone's life, there's ups and downs. You know, there will be sad times, there'll be happy times, there'll be tough times, there'll be easy times. There will be periods where you're scared, and periods where you're supremely confident. It's part of life, and having good people around you, people you can talk to, people you can share it with. Yeah, that's really really important. Um, but I think it's important to remember that everybody goes through ups and downs. Everybody.
yeah. True, true. That's a very good point there, Brian. Some people might admit it, other people mightn't, but there you go.
Mm,
But everybody has their ups and downs in life. It's how you cope with those challenges is what makes you a person.
sure.
A final question here for you, Brian. If you were given the opportunity to have one wish granted to you without question, what would that be?
Oh. One wish granted to me without question.
Yeah.
Um, I would wish that there wouldn't be any violence in the world. Yeah, no wars, no violence. People were left to be themselves, to do their thing, to be happy. We have too much violence in the world at the moment, and we have had for a number of years. But there's wars going on at the moment that are horrific, and innocent people are suffering. So I would wish to take that suffering away from anybody now and in the future.